Direct from Kansas City, it's Comic Book Late Night with Captain Logan! Featuring brand new comic book reviews, thoughts on comic news, obscure character of the week, and a little something from the comic vault. And now, here's Captain Logan!
Hello everyone, welcome once again to Comic Book Late Night. I'm indeed Captain Logan. You know, sometimes I think about technology, and I think about how much the world has changed since the original inception of superheroes. Things have changed greatly, right? Technologically, if nothing else. You know, in 1938, if you were going to use a phone booth, it wouldn't necessarily just be to change your clothes so you could put on your superhero outfit. Some people actually also used phone booths, believe it or not, to communicate with people. And these days we're so far away from that because we all travel around with cell phones, at least the majority of us, and a lot of people have their devices where they can chat on Twitter and they can update their status messages on Facebook and things like that. And the new technology has been greatly affecting how superheroes operate in comic books, naturally. Everybody's got cell phones, and the internet plays a much larger role than it ever used to. And it gets me wondering, though, if superheroes use Facebook. Facebook has become such a large, all-encompassing thing everybody uses. I wonder what the world would be like if superheroes used Facebook. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know, it seems like the different superheroes and supervillains using Facebook would be indicative of a lot of the stereotypes that we're already seeing with Facebook. For instance, The Flash would be that guy who updates a status message every 3 minutes, just irritating people with information that nobody cares about. I'm eating an apple. I'm running down the street. I'm buying a lottery ticket. And he would have, like, plenty of time to do this, too, because, you know, he's the Flash. So he would just constantly be updating a status message and wouldn't even think about it. Then take somebody like Superman. He'd be an interesting case. He'd be that guy who never types anything original that he came up with. It would always be, like, quotes from famous people or, like, big, all-encompassing, like, moral platitudes, right? Superman would be that guy who would type something like, "Ask not what you can do for your country, ask what your country can do for you." Then you'd have Spider-Man, who would sound like he was constantly complaining as long as he ever typed anything that was actually happening to him. Through no fault of his own, the world is always against Spider-Man, and so if Spider-Man ever, let's say he updated his status message 4 times a day, it would say things like, "Aunt May is sick, I wasn't able to make it to class today because I had to fight the Rhino. Mary Jane is mad at me because I couldn't get to our date on time. And yet another person that I know or fell in love with died yesterday. This seems to be a regular occurrence." That would be Spider-Man. Like, you would look like the emo Peter Parker from Spider-Man 3 if you read enough of Spider-Man's status messages. Then Solomon Grundy would be that guy who just pokes you all day long. And then I started thinking about the whole like-dislike thing. Because in a comic book world, you would be able to immediately tell if someone was good or evil by what they thumbed up or thumbed down on Facebook. Let's say Galactus uses Facebook. Just for the sake of argument, let's say that Galactus is capable somehow of using Facebook. And he puts in his Facebook status message that he just ate a planet of 6 billion people. Thumbs up, you're evil. Anyway, I've got a great show for you tonight. I'm going to be interviewing Tim Brown, who coordinates the Superman fan film contest at the Superman Celebration every year in Metropolis, Illinois. He's going to be talking about that, and he's also going to go through the Comic Grill. And right now, it's time for brand new comic book reviews. There's an opening in the Royal Flush Gang. Hey, let's go straight on to brand new comic reviews, and we're going to start today with Spawn number 205. Jim's latest miracle is being broadcast around the world, and he's getting more attention now than ever. The issue opens with a clever chat room conversation in which one chatter hasn't seen the clip of Jim yet, which spirals into a long series of news reports, all to convey that, try as everyone might, the masses are being forced to realize that Jim's healing powers aren't a hoax. Everyone's gearing up to act now. Clown, the vampires, Malbolgia, and there's a lot more action here than we've seen since the new team came on board. Kudransky hasn't had the opportunity to draw the Spawn costume much since he started, and now that he's drawing several panels of it here, it was well worth the wait. After fleeing the scene of his last save, the costume has brought Jim to a dead zone, like it did with Al Simmons, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when he tries to leave the shadows and go back to his life, which I imagine he'll probably do. This issue is a lot less dialogue-heavy than it has been, and it's a nice change of pace. It still manages to deliver a lot of story without the onslaught of words on every page. I don't mean to say that Will Carleton's issues have been especially overwritten up till now, but it's nice to see some variation. There's a lot more plotting with the supernatural stuff going on here, and so paragraphs of dialogue wouldn't be very appropriate. The issue seems concerned primarily with putting us in the perspective of the world at large, experiencing this huge important historical moment, and then going behind the scenes to see what's really going on. The dark and highly detailed art continues to create a haunting mood, and it's still impressing me. Oh, and in the back, there's a nice recap of everything from 200 to now in the Spawning Ground page, in case you haven't been reading or in case you need the refresher. Excellent issue. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, FF number 1. Well, I've been making fun of the costumes, I've been making fun of Spider-Man being on every team, and so finally, now that it's out, is FF number 1 as silly and unnecessary as I thought it would be? I'm going to say yes, but it's still a very competent book. Then again, it's still Hickman and Epting. These guys know how to write and draw these characters. I just don't like this new team idea. Turning Fantastic Four into the Future Foundation really does feel like change for the sake of change. Marvel's talked a lot about trying to make these characters more relevant and more interesting to today's readers. And I'm sorry, but if the Fantastic Four was too old school for people, I don't see how white jumpsuits and Spider-Man is supposed to accomplish that. I also personally think the Fantastic Four were just fine the way they were, so understand, I can't be entirely objective about this. It's basically the same book, done by the same creative team, that really feels like it's been forced into a different direction by a mandate from Marvel. If I'm wrong, and this was Hickman's idea, okay, but he seemed to really be enjoying telling very classic FF stories, so I'd be really surprised if that were the case. The book does its best to make the shift to the new team as smooth and logical as possible. Setting it a month ahead helps. Apparently having Spider-Man take Johnny's place was actually Johnny's idea, which is the only thing that makes sense. And the reason they got away from the blue uniforms is because they just felt wrong without Johnny. He made the team the Fantastic Four, and without him, they can have a team, but they feel they need it to be something different. It's similar to Dick refusing to operate out of the Batcave when he replaced Bruce Wayne. Most of the issue is set up, acclimating new readers to what's been going on with Fantastic Four, kind of reintroducing the kids as well as Reed's father. I love the dynamic between Reed and his dad. It's the best part of the issue for me. There's a great moment where the family plus Spider-Man all sit down to dinner. Is there anyone who isn't supposed to know Peter Parker's Spider-Man? Why does he have to eat with his mask half up? Reed says he's thinking about terraforming the moon, and everyone at the table approves except his father. Everybody looks at him, and he asks if this is how things always work. Reed just makes a suggestion, and everyone goes along with it. Then Reed calls this challenge refreshing. There is some action with an old Fantastic Four bad guy, and a big reveal at the end which seems to be there to challenge the black and white way Sue, Reed, and Ben are viewing the world now, which I quite liked, assuming it goes somewhere fun. All in all, Hickman and Epting are still bringing their best work to the table, but now that I've seen it, I still don't quite care for the new direction. So yeah, all in all, I didn't totally hate this, but I have no idea how anybody managed to get Thing to put that costume on. And now, let's go to DC and look at Batman Dark Knight number 2. I suddenly found myself less interested in this story. I thought it was a decent start, but after the second issue, it's starting to feel unnecessary and redundant. Batman following a lead on a girl he knew as a child. Had it gained some different ground, I'd be fine with it, but it still feels like territory we've covered before. I will say, I love Scott Williams' realistic art, and it's nice to see Bruce in the landscape of Gotham, but that's not enough to get me excited, and I feel like it's just trying to coast on that. Part of it, too, is that I'm not sure this book knows what it wants to be conceptually. It looks like a traditional urban Batman detective story, and then all of a sudden Etrigan's in the mix, and we've got all this magic involved. By the final panels, it looks more like a horror book. And that's all okay, I guess. I really like how the Penguin is written. He looks ultra-grotesque, but he still talks like a scholar. But I don't know, Batman has really been out of shape about the disappearance of this girl, and David Finch isn't going far enough to make us invested in it and understand why. Batman goes as far as to break the Penguin's arm. I'm not getting in his head enough, so this seems kind of questionable. But wait, was he being controlled by the amulet?
When he finds himself imprisoned by Killer Croc, he has a narration box that says the amulet is gone and the rage along with it. Oh, so maybe he's going too far because of an artifact. Well, that makes it more understandable, but not really a better read. Also reminds me a little bit of Shadowland. Bottom line, I don't think we're getting enough story per issue, and like most people, I probably expect more when a book comes out 3 months late. It's certainly not awful or anything, but it's not really my cup of tea, and with so many better Bat books out right now, even though this is only one of 2 Bruce Wayne books, I'm not sure I'm going to keep going with it.
And our final book today is also a Bat book. Let's look at Batman Incorporated, number 4.
Grant Morrison loves Silver Age Batman, and he never misses a chance to write about it. I, for one, appreciate a writer who isn't afraid of tying in older stories that people now think are cheesy. He finds ways to make old ideas new again, and to fit them into the current, darker vision of Batman. There's a big tone shift here from the first 3 issues, going from over-the-top spy stuff to something a little closer to Morrison's usual, broad-scoped storytelling. It doesn't completely get away from the events from last issue, though. Batman and El Gaucho are still fighting to the death in the Sombrero's trap, and the flashbacks about Batman and Kathy Kane, the first Batwoman, are tied closely to that story. Batman learns that El Gaucho was in love with Kathy, and that his actions accidentally led to her death. But the issue does feel a little scatterbrained, probably less so if you're intimately familiar with Grant Morrison's style, and if you've been following his writing on Batman since the beginning, which I admit I haven't. His storytelling requires his readers to be patient, and he's extremely organized. Sometimes he waits 6 months to a year to pay something off from one story, and another story later in a whole other book. There's a lot going on in this issue, and while I find it a little frustrating sometimes, to the point where I have to read the entire thing a second time to make sure I didn't miss anything, I have to appreciate getting so much story, exciting artwork, and like I said last issue, so many elements you just won't find in anything else you're reading in just 20 pages. What I latched onto the most here were the flashbacks to Batman and Batwoman, who almost get married even though she doesn't know Batman's secret identity. I love the art in these sections because it takes itself entirely seriously, but it looks nearly exactly like it did in the 50s, going as far as making the print look grainy and you can see individual pixels. Batman and Batwoman almost get married, but she turns away from their relationship, afraid that he'll find out she is the daughter of a Nazi criminal. I love how she breaks it off with him, too. They do the Tango of Death, which Bruce did last issue. I love how all this background ties into the present. And it even ties directly to the current Batwoman, who fights a mysterious woman dressed like the original Batwoman. As all over the place as it seems, and as much as I'm not entirely sure about everything that's going on, I think I like this issue more than the rest so far, as it focuses less on the formula of recruiting for Batman Inc. and more on Batman's complex fictional and literary history.
So before we go to the news today, let's mix things up a little bit and go straight to a trivia question. Today's trivia question is, Mephisto was created by John Buscema and Stan Lee, but what series did he first premiere in? What series did Mephisto first premiere in? If you think you know, leave your answer in the comments below. And our question from last time was, Stephanie Brown's father, the Clue Master, was a failure at what career before he became a supervillain? And the correct answer to that was he was a failed game show host. And that answer was first given by R.W. Marvel Masta. And so, congratulations to you. Once again, put your answer to this question in the comments below. And now, it's time for another exciting edition of Know Your Batmobiles. Here is a Batmobile. What year is it from? Is it from 1999, from 2005, or from 2010? And I'll come back again at the end of the show and let you know. And now, it's time for the news. It's kind of a random splattering of unrelated events in comics this week. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the new Wonder Woman costume. As everyone's probably seen by now, here is the new costume for the Wonder Woman TV show on NBC. Not a joke. A lot of people at first, when they first saw it, thought maybe it was photoshopped and that it was a gag. It's not a gag. This is apparently what they're going with, and I, like most people, think it looks really bad. Quite atrocious. And I can't add a lot to the commentary on this. A lot of people are saying that it looks like a Party City ad. I completely agree. The whole thing looks kind of plastic. I've seen a lot of fan costumes that look more realistic than this, and frankly it looks kind of like something out of Power Rangers a little bit. I don't understand why a show that's trying, or that claims to be trying to do Wonder Woman more realistically, which frankly I don't need anyway,
thinks that they need something that looks so kiddish. It bugs me. I think everything's going the wrong direction, and the guy who's producing this thing didn't even really want to do it in the first place, and that's never a good sign. We'll see what happens with it, but I mean, from everything I've heard so far, it sounds like the show is going to be precisely the opposite of what real Wonder Woman fans would have wanted for the series. I say do Wonder Woman completely straight. This whole Themyscira Industries thing and all that, it's totally bogus. I don't understand why you can't just do something close to Wonder Woman's traditional background and then tell whatever stories you want to beyond that. But anyway, the costume itself, it looks kind of plastic to me. I think that I heard one reviewer who said that the pants being one solid color, well, that she has pants, and that half of the costume being one solid color kind of throws the whole color palette off. I agree with that. I think it looks hokey, and I think that if you're going to do any variation whatsoever on the traditional Wonder Woman costume, it's got to be, you can't mess with it too much, or it's going to look even hokier than perhaps some people think that it already did in the first place. I'm personally fine with the traditional Wonder Woman costume, and I don't know why we really have to mess with it. I understand that people think it's outdated, and that it's some people even think that it's saying something negative, about women, that we've got this female superhero who wears this one-piece bathing suit everywhere. I personally disagree. I've heard more men say that than women. I would be interested to see, the more feminine take on this. If women dislike Wonder Woman's costume. In superhero film news, the director of The Wolverine, the Wolverine sequel, has left the project. Darren Aronofsky. He's left the project, and now the future of the Wolverine is kind of up in the air. Fox swears up and down that it's still going to happen and that they're trying to make it happen on schedule. But there are a lot of critics that are saying that they're not sure they buy that, and that it doesn't look like Fox is actually really all that worried about getting it out on time, despite the fact that they claim that they are. I'm not real sure what all that's about. But what's more interesting than that is that there are other factors that might push it back also, like the fact that the majority of it was supposed to be shot in Japan. And again, Fox says that they're not going to have any problem going over there and shooting it. But the way things are over there right now, with what happened last week with the earthquake, I don't think anyone who's not there has any idea just how bad it really is. And so I think it's hard to tell if they're actually going to be able to go over there and shoot. And so honestly, I'm not really making a big deal out of it, because I didn't like X-Men Origins Wolverine all that much, and so I'm not sure how badly I need the new Wolverine movie to come out on time. Stephen King is actually going to co-write an episode of The Walking Dead. This has been rumored for a while. It's actually going to happen now. He's going to co-write it with his son, Joe Hill, and we don't know if it's going to happen in Season 2 or Season 3 yet, but yeah, the Master of Horror is going to write an episode of The Walking Dead, so that's quite exciting. This summer, there's going to be a new Spider-Man event. The preliminaries for that are already going to start happening in the Amazing Spider-Man title, starting in just next week, I think, called Spider Island. And basically the premise is 16,000 people end up getting extra arms and legs, and I guess probably just arms, and some of Spider-Man's powers. And so they have to quarantine the whole island of Manhattan. And I think it's really interesting. Dan Slott's penning it. It has the potential to be really good. Again, I'm not really reading Spider-Man right now, and I haven't really cared for much of anything post One More Day, but I may actually give this a shot. It sounds kind of like late '90s Batman. It sounds kind of like mixing Contagion with No Man's Land and rolling it all into one. It's like No Man's Land on steroids. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is Comic Book Resources this week had an interview with Stan Lee and Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane was supposedly supposed to be interviewing Stan Lee, although it didn't really work out that way. It's about a 23-minute long interview. It's worth watching. It's interesting. But I cringed a little bit watching it. I have to tell the truth, because I thought Todd was really hogging the spotlight too much, and he set it up as, I'm going to interview Stan Lee, and then he just kept talking, and Stan was having a hard time getting a word in edgewise, and Todd really kind of picked the direction the conversation was going to go, and it seemed like Stan kind of would have liked to have talked about some other more solid things. But what it mostly ended up boiling down to was the two of them kind of defending the comic book industry and talking a little bit about the future and what comics used to be like during Stan's heyday and during Todd's heyday, and then where they seem to be going, that kind of thing. Some of it's really interesting, but some of it was a little bit cringeworthy, I've got to say. Not that Todd didn't say a lot of things that I agree, because I actually did agree with a lot of things that he had to say. But the idea of Todd McFarlane is going to interview Stan Lee, I thought was cool, and it's too bad that he hogged the spotlight as much as he did. The premise sounded a lot like what happened in the early 2000s when Kevin Smith interviewed Stan Lee, and that actually was a real interview. And so, I don't know, it's too bad that didn't work out quite right. But anyway, that's the news for today. My special guest tonight is professional videographer Tim Brown, who coordinates the Superman fan film competition at the Superman Celebration in Metropolis, Illinois every summer. He's going to talk to us about the celebration, about the competition, and he's also going to enter the Comic Grill. Please welcome Tim Brown, and let's take a listen. Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about the competition, a little bit about the rules and the deadline and all that, and then we'll go right into the Comic Grill.
Well, Superman Celebration Fan Film Competition is now in its 4th year. What it is a amateur film competition. Films can be 15 minutes or less, but they have to be superhero related. Now, one of the things, though, is since, of course, people are going to be using comic characters from Marvel, DC, and we don't discriminate. Even though it's Superman Celebration, we will allow Marvel or independent comics creations, or even your own creations. But we asked for amateur, and we even open it up to the professional community. Now, the only thing is, of course, if you don't own it, you can't make money from it. So don't sell it, please, because I don't want to get me in trouble, or the city of Metropolis.
Right.
But anyway, the rules are 15 minutes or less. We're limiting this year to 4 entries per participant, which it was.
Ooh, only 4? That sounds hard.
We had some people send in maybe 6, 7, 8 entries, and after a while, some of them were. That's a nice way to put that.
Right.
So anyhow, we are in our 4th year, and the first year we had 9 films. Second year we had 14 entries, and then last year we jumped to 26 entries. And you can find out more about the rules. You can get your entry form and any other information at the official site for Superman Celebration, supermancelebration.net. Now, not supermancelebration.com. That's owned by someone who's not affiliated. We don't know why they have it. But it's supermancelebration.net, and there is a special section, you'll see it in the top menu, for the fan film competition.
And you don't actually have to be at the celebration in order to win, right?
No, you don't have to be present to win, and that's one of the good things, because we get some fantastic films, and we've gotten them from all around the world. Mm-hmm. As far as, I think the furthest came from the Pacific Islands.
Oh, wow.
And we've had people express interest for this year as far as China.
Yeah, that's really
cool. One thing we do ask, though, that if you're a foreign to the U.S., of course, entrant, that we ask that your film either be dubbed or subtitled with English. Because, unfortunately, being a dumb American, I only speak one language. Actually, I speak 2 languages, English and bad English. So we just ask that you please subtitle or dub.
I'm still trying to pick up text speak, but I'm not quite there yet.
Oh. We've never gotten one dubbed in the text speak. That would be interesting.
Yeah, actually, that'd be cool, just conceptually.
It really would, and I'm surprised that no one has actually done that. Well, I take that back. Someone has done the emoticon, Gail Simone. She created a character called the Emoticon in her Welcome to Tranquility series.
Oh, that's cool.
Someone should do that costume. It would be brilliant. But as far as Superman Celebration, this year it will be on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th of June in the beautiful city of Metropolis, Illinois. Now, don't drive into Metropolis expecting it to be Metropolis, because it's more like Smallville.
Right.
But it does have the heart of Metropolis. And it is a wonderful little town. This will be my, 2000, went there the first time in 2006, so my 6th year going there, and my 5th running fan films. We did our first year of fan films there in 2007, and we just did it as an exhibition. We had friends who got fan films or had people send them to them, and we had them on a drive-in theater outside in the square. And they said, well, we have no nightlife, so
Yeah.
what can we do to liven things up? Because literally the streets rolled up at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing going on in Metropolis at night.
I used to actually live in a town about that small. And so,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so when I go to
So you know
Metropolis,
how
it's
it
like
goes.
it's like going home, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a very down-home experience. It's like any small town that you may be familiar with, and it is. It's very Smallville, and the people are very friendly.
It's more Smallville than the show Smallville.
It is. It's even more Smallville than the show Smallville.
Partly because they had a train station.
You know, I don't even know if they have one in Metropolis.
That always bothered me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really cool festival. If you've never been, I really highly recommend that you go. If you've ever been to any like small town festivals, it's just like one of those, except it's also a fan convention all at the same time.
Exactly. It's almost like, imagine your local small town strawberry festival, except it's about superheroes and Superman.
Yeah, and then at the same time, you can still sometimes see things like strongman competitions and BMX bike racing,
and they have the BMX guys there every year.
Yep.
But then they have like the gospel music and live music acts
and the pageants. There's always a baby pageant.
A Cryptello eating contest this year.
What?
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be, unlike kind of like Jell-O, but we're not going to use that Jello word because it's copyrighted. But it's Cryptello. So whoever can eat the most green Cryptello will win a prize this year.
See, at least that's a kind of Jell-O that tastes good.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Green Jell-O is awesome.
It is awesome. Green is the stuff of the guys. It really is.
Well, Tim, I'm going to take you now through the comic grill. Are you ready?
I'm ready whenever you are, Captain Logan.
All right, here we go, Tim. Here are your comic grill questions. Number one, I read somewhere that DC was at one time kind of opposed to public screenings of fan films, and I was wondering if you knew what changed in how they started allowing that kind of a thing to happen at Metropolis.
Honestly, I really don't know. Now, DC approves everything that goes on at Superman Celebration.
Right.
They have everything has to be run by them first. So I'm not sure what changed in their mindset, but I look at the other fandoms. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan,
Mm-hmm.
and George Lucas is extremely supportive of the fan film community,
right,
because these are the up-and-coming generation of filmmakers. And so maybe they finally decided, well, maybe we should be that way. Or maybe they just thought if we can't beat them, we should join them.
Mm-hmm. Question number two, probably kind of an obvious one, but I'm just curious, so I'm going to ask, who is your favorite on-screen Superman?
My favorite on-screen Superman?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh, of course, Christopher Reeve. Nobody ever beats Christopher Reeve.
There are a lot of people I meet at the celebration who like to argue George Reeves over Christopher Reeve.
Oh, yes, they will. You will hear people argue Kirk Allen, Christopher Reeve. Good gosh, George Reeves. They will argue back and forth from here to Sunday. But I've got to say that Chris, to me, he is the quintessential Superman, and no one will ever match him.
Yeah, me too. I personally completely agree with that. Number three is something I like to ask guests who are into comics. What is the best ongoing book you're currently reading?
Oh my gosh. Now, that is a tough question. But right now, my favorite has been Star Wars Legacy, written by John Ostrander and penciled by Jan Duursema. Been spoiled because John and Jan are personal friends of mine. But they became personal friends after I started loving this book. So yes, I'd have to say Star Wars Legacy for certain.
Number four, have you personally ever made a superhero fan film? And if not, what would you do with one if you made one?
Well, you know what? That is the funny thing. I have always wanted to make one, but I've never had the chance. It's always a time factor. So I'm going to change that this year. This year's celebration, there'll be a special opener starring a special superhero. This will be a mixture of film and live action. And the special superhero I will not give away because it's going to be a surprise. But thanks to my best friend and co-conspirator in many things, Lynn Workman, we're going to create a little short film that ties into this live action, and we're thinking everyone's really going to enjoy it. But
Awesome.
Other than that, by the way, my personal superhero that I created, that I want to do a fan film, is Martini Man. And his sidekick drinking buddy.
What are his powers?
He doesn't have any powers. He just drinks martinis and stumbles his way into victory every time. Mainly because people trip over drinking buddy.
Final question. Tim, do you have any advice for anybody trying to make successful fan films, especially people who are trying to make one on a very limited budget? And what kinds of mistakes do you think the less successful films seem to make that the better ones avoid?
Okay. One thing, length. Keep it short, tight, and sweet. Because one of the biggest mistakes is people just drone on too long with the film, and they run it into the ground. Because we've seen some very well-made films, very good cinematography, that, well acted, but then they just sort of drug too much. It needed a tighter editing job. A lot of things can be fixed in the editing room, but not everything. Always good acting, takes only one or two really bad performances out of 15 others to ruin a fan film. And people go, I love that film, but I can't give it number one because dude over here sounded like Keanu Reeves and acted about as good. But to be honest, people, and I've had a lot of complaints about this, well, you're opening up to the professional community. How can we amateurs compete? I'll put it this way. We've had 3 years, and out of 3 years, only amateurs have won number one, first place, all 3 times. In fact, the 2 of the times it's been the same guy, and he actually did a sequel that was so blasted good that we just had to give him number one. I mean, we enjoyed it that much. But Jor-El is the Godfather. We sat and it was the acting. It wasn't the highest quality fan film, no offense.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
It
I
was
know.
so well acted and so well written and just so well done that we had to give it third place.
Well, thank you.
We just had to. Everybody at the judging panel just sat there and said, this one has to win something. And we watched it twice because it was so funny. So funny also helps.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially when you've had... you have a panel of judges who are sitting there watching, maybe 25, 26, 30. We're hoping for more films this year, but I don't know how many more. But just don't let that stop you from entering, people. Come on, send in those entries. We only have 2. May 25th is coming fast, but just do your best, people. But just remember, watch in the editing room, and funny seems to win every time so far.
Yeah. Since last year, I've actually become pretty good friends with Jake Thomas, who won second place last year, and he's just hilarious.
Phenomenal. In fact, Jake is helping me with a little project for this year.
Is he?
The aforementioned Dirty Deed that I'm working on.
Cool.
As are you, Captain.
Yep.
But we will keep our lips sealed now, won't we?
Yep. No, we won't. We won't say anything about it. I'm actually waiting for Jake to send me something for my entry for this year also.
Oh, so you are collaborating.
I think I won't talk about it now. But the thing we're doing is majorly collaborative with a lot of our subscribers, and
awesome.
And he didn't find out about it until the deadline passed.
Jake is a great guy. He really is. He really is. And I loved the Adventures of Tiny Superman from last year. And I am really hoping that he is going to be entering again this year, because I just can't wait to see what comes from him, comes out of that head of his next year.
He's hoping to. He's not sure if he's going to have it done by then, but he's hoping to. Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I'm
the project and actually, a quick plug for Jake. The project he's working on right now is actually going to require a little bit of a budget, and he's got a Kickstarter page for it. So if anybody wants to help him out with that, go make a donation, because that's going to really...
That's right, folks. Go help your local fan film community.
That's right. Well, Tim, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, Captain.
If you have any fan film chops, be sure to send a film to the competition. And now, back to the show. Today's Obscure Character of the Week is brought to you by The Secret Six and The Sinister Six. If Marvel and DC had another giant crossover event, they'd be The Secret Sinister Dozen. Have you ever heard of Bombshell? So it turns out that DC and Marvel both have characters called Bombshell. Today I'm going to take a look at Marvel's Bombshell. First appearing in Hawkeye #3 in 1983, Wendy Conrad is a multi-talented woman with two unlikely expertises that she puts together to become a supervillain: juggling and explosives. She was hired along with another juggler, Oddball, by Crossfire to kill Hawkeye and Mockingbird. Naturally, they were defeated, but later, get this, she and Oddball joined a group of juggling-themed villains called the Death Throes, which also included Knick-Knack, Ringleader, and Tenpin. That's right. As if one juggling supervillain doesn't sound preposterous, there are 5, and they created a supervillain team around it. But her history gets even more out there. She later undergoes a genetic experiment to get the power to shoot energy blasts from her hands, and she joins another group, the Femizons, an all-female supervillain team, and these villains don't all juggle. Their plan is to sterilize all men so that women can take over the world. Not surprisingly, they're defeated by Captain America. After that, she's hired for a while along with some other villains by Justin Hammer, and she also fights with the Death Throes again, but ultimately surrenders to Union Jack. If you have a suggestion for Obscure Character of the Week, or some fan art you'd like to show off, something you'd like to see me review on the show, a question you want me to answer, anything like that, feel free to send me a personal message over Geekvolution, and I'd love to hear from you. And now, it's time once again to find out what I've selected from the Comic Vault. For the last couple months, we've had a brand new Spawn comic every 2 weeks, and so in honor of tons and tons of Spawn, today on the Comic Vault, we're going to take a look at Curse of the Spawn #1. This story really is all atmosphere and no substance. The art is gothic and surrealistic, beautifully conveying this apocalyptic future in which the Earth is overrun by bizarre and terrifying demons. Events foretold in the Book of Revelation have come true, and most of the issue is setting this unfamiliar and twisted landscape. Much like the Hell in the main Spawn title, I can see a lot of influence from Dante's Inferno here, besides the biblical inspirations. I especially like New Vatican City, the evil mockery of the Catholic faith, where the anti-pope, a skeletal creature wearing the Pope's garments, watches the world as it continues to be consumed by evil. The plot centers around a woman, one of the few humans left apparently, and her son, whom she didn't want to bring into this horrific world, but we're told cryptically that she had no choice. We aren't told how they've managed to survive so long, despite the many close calls they have just in this issue. They're almost eaten alive by something that looks half demon, half machine, that wants to drink their bodily fluids, but they're saved at the last minute by a newly born Hellspawn. He rises from the ground, and we're promptly given his backstory, the typical origin of the kid whose father beat he and his family, so he killed his father, and I guess that made him just bad enough to be a Spawn, but just good enough to be the protagonist for this book. It's an easy backstory, it's kind of rushed, and it's nearly identical to the story of a boy in an early issue of the main Spawn book who kills his abusive father. At the end of the issue, the Spawn asks if the woman recognizes him, and then on the last page screams, "What have I done?" I don't know what any of this is in reference to, and I suppose these details are withheld to entice us to continue reading. There's something less impressive about a Hellspawn who's running around a world filled with demons, put in a modern-day setting when Spawn is out of place, and he's instantly mysterious and intriguing. But in a future overrun with Hellbeasts, it's kind of like watching a Terminator in the future that's filled with Terminators. On the other hand, I do enjoy the surrealism and the insanity of this Hell on Earth scenario, a world completely drenched in the supernatural rather than one trying to hide from it like in the main Spawn book. This was the first Spawn monthly outside of the main title, as far as I'm aware, and I understand the desire to distance it from the main book and make it its own thing. But doing what's effectively Spawn Beyond seems a little obvious. I haven't read any further into this title, and I'll be interested to see if it becomes more heavily plotted and character-driven. And now it's time to reveal the year for tonight's Batmobile. The Batmobile, in fact, appeared in 2005. It appeared in issue number 21 of Superman Batman and was patterned after the first Batmobile from Hush. Well, hey, that's all the time I have for you tonight. I'd like to thank my very special guest, Tim Brown, for being on the program. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to support your local comic book store. And if you're ever in the Kansas City area, you can check out my favorite comic book store, which is Pop Culture Comics in Overland Park, Kansas. And remember, if you're ever offered a one-way trip to Apocalypse, just say no. That's not a fun place to visit or a fun place to live. I'm Captain Logan, signing off.